Food is symbolic of love when words are inadequate. A quote by Alan D. Wolfite. Uh, did you know that symbols are used on a daily basis to represent people, events, and other phenomenons? Um, Symbols have many different meanings and aspects to them. For example, they can evaluate and define, or they can be ambiguous, arbitrary, and even sometimes abstract. So, first, we will talk about the arbitrary symbolization. Now, to get the full understanding of the word, let's look at the definition. The definition of arbitrary states that based on random choice rather than having a consistent rule. So, if we take that definition, so when we talk about symbols being arbitrary, we mean they do not connect to what they actually represent. So, for example, let's say the sentence, that man's an animal. Our example shows that the word animal has a different meaning from what the word actually and originally stands for. Arbitrary symbolism has no concreteness of what the word means in the statement. Words that we are used to, like animal, doesn't mean or symbolize the same meaning we are used to. The word symbolizes that a man is acting like an animal, and they aren't actually calling him a dog or a cat that walks on all fours. We have talked about the symbolization of an arbitrary meaning, and so now we can actually move on to ambiguous symbolization. Some messages and symbols are not fixated in specific ways. They can be worded in a way to make the reader think that the sentence could have multiple meanings. Like, for example, let's say I could say I rode a black horse wearing red pajamas. It's a little vague. So let's say, what does that sentence actually mean? Does it mean that I'm wearing the red pajamas, or is it meaning that the horse is wearing the red pajamas? You know, we kind of get lost in the meaning of the actual sentence. For example, another one is I'm digging my own grave. This doesn't mean that someone is actually digging a hole so they can be buried in it. This actually symbolizes that maybe a man did something and his spouse is about to find out about it, and he knows that he's going to be in a lot of trouble, so he's basically like digging his own grave, and he's going to have to sleep on the couch or something like that. So now that we've looked at the examples and everything, we saw how symbolism or a sentence can be ambiguous by being written in a certain way. So let's take a look at symbol and how it can be abstract. An abstract symbol can look a certain way, but could have a hidden meaning behind it. This one is a little trickier on the explanation, so let's look at the definition of abstract. So abstract has the definition of having an idea, but not having a physical existence of it. So let's say, to get a little better explanation of a cartoon drawing of a heart. This cartoon heart-shaped symbol means, to us, it means love, but it actually really shouldn't, because the heart is not what represents love in a scientific term. The brain is actually the one that functions, and it releases the hormones and the actual like oxytocin of the brain, and that's what gives us that euphoric feeling of love towards another person. So in actuality, that symbol should actually be of a brain instead of a heart that represents love. So now that we kind of have an understanding of an abstract symbol, let's start moving on to symbols that can define. So symbols were meant to define experiences, people, relationships, feelings, and thoughts. I can think of a few signs and symbols that have a united meaning to everyone in the world. So let's say the sign of peace is represented by an olive branch, or a dove, or the symbol that was actually created in the 50s. So, like, for the olive branch, for example, the olive branch was created, the symbol was actually created by God from Noah being in the ark for 40 days and 40 nights after the flood. So whenever Noah sent a dove out, that dove brought an olive branch back, meaning that there was peace among the land and that there were no more floodwaters. These symbols were created to find peace throughout many different cultures and religions. Symbols can have meanings that are widely known among people of all the earth. So now that we have seen symbols that define, let's take a look at the symbols that can evaluate. Symbols that can evaluate, which means they accent qualities of a person, event, or other phenomenons. I had someone at the gym say to me, "You are hard to forget because you are the strong little guy at the gym." He symbolized me or evaluated me as a little but strong guy at the gym. He gave me a title by my physical qualities and made it easier to recognize exactly who I am. So now that we've gone over all the different ways that symbols can be defined, we learned that they can create an abstract, arbitrary, and ambiguous conclusion in how we phrase sentences or view symbols. We also learned that symbols can define and evaluate people, events, and different phenomenon. So from now on, have fun with these symbolic traits, and next time you're speaking to someone, think of many different ways you can actually describe symbolism.